In front of me is the ChessNut Air Plus. Now, I have never seen this board or played with it, and in today's video, we're going to be unboxing it and then reviewing and exploring the features that this board comes with. Now, this is an electronic chess board, and so the benefit, the point of this board is that you can connect it via your phone to chess.com or Lichess, and then you can play against online players at your home with a real board, and you get sort of a mix between the online and the over-the-board experience, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. We'll look at how smooth this experience really is, and if you are at all interested, then check out more information in the description. There's also a sale going on, so get the link in the description. Okay, let's begin unboxing. So this is how the inside of the board looks like, and all of the pieces, including an extra queen for both sides, which is very standard in chess boards. There is a cord here, which I assume is the way that you connect this to either charge it or in order to transmit the information. It might be through Bluetooth as well. Like I said, this is my first time exploring this board, so this is all very new to me as well and very exciting. So let's explore a little further. So you can see here, this is how the pieces came. Maybe that is a better angle. Here's the board itself. It is wrapped nicely here to keep it safe. Let's open this up. Okay, so now I just have the board in front of me, along with the pieces, along with my phone, and soon we'll connect the board to the phone to be able to actually play. Now, before we get to that step, I just want to quickly give some thoughts about the board itself. In terms of size, it seems a little bit smaller than most of the boards that I have. So for example, and for reference, I have this one here. This is a foldable board, and you can see that it is a little bit bigger than the one that we get from ChessNut Air Plus. That being said, when you start to put the pieces on the board itself, I think the size of the pieces relative to the board is a pretty solid ratio. I think once I cover this entire board with pieces, which I'll get to in a second, it seems to me like the queen, for example, and the king, which are the two biggest pieces, definitely fit within their squares, and you can see the entire board quite well. That's one of the benefits of having a slightly smaller board, and all of the pieces, I think, will find, relative to the size of their squares, a good proportion. Now, the color of the board really jumps at me, and it's very interesting. You don't get the typical dark wood compared to light wood color scheme that you see very often in chess wooden boards. Instead, you have the light squares, but the dark squares seem to be a little bit more of this reddish color to them. And I think when you look at the contrast between the squares, it's a little bit less clear, a little bit more blurry. I think that comes from the fact that the dark squares are a little bit more light than they typically are. But the pieces themselves are really glossy. They really jump at you, and when you put them on the board, they really pop. And so I've already noticed that with the white pieces and with the dark ones as well. When you put all of the pieces on their squares, the board itself really takes sort of a backseat position and the pieces come to life. And visually, it looks very appealing to me. And now I think I'll put the remaining pieces on their squares and we'll get to actually playing with the board for the first time and seeing how that experience pans out. So I'll rotate the board for a second so you can see all of the buttons that the board comes with. And this clean slate of buttons here is all you need to turn on the board, to charge it, to turn on Bluetooth. Everything really comes down to this panel right here, which I think is a really clean design. So to open up the board, you need to hold down on the leftmost button for a few seconds, and a green light should appear. There could also be a flashing blue light to indicate that you have not yet connected Bluetooth. So let's do that next. So you need to take your phone, it also connects to various other devices, and you need to download the ChessNut app from their website. And so I've already done that, so I'm right now in the ChessNut app, and then you simply turn on Bluetooth on your phone, and you press the little Bluetooth icon in the app, and it will connect the board to your phone once you press the connect button. It seems very simple so far. You press the connect button, you hear a little beep, and the phone seems to be good to go. So once you connect Bluetooth, in the app there are three options. There are a couple other options as well, but largely you can play against a bot, or you can connect and play online with chess.com or Lichess, or you can analyze. So we'll look at the bot match because in terms of the gameplay and how it feels and how it looks, that's going to be identical to playing against an opponent on chess.com using the board. But I think a lot of the value will come from that latter example. So I think playing against the computer is cool, but I think personally at least, one of the coolest aspects of this board is that I can play an over-the-board experience of a 30-minute or 1-hour game, but I can have that at my leisure whenever I want by starting a new chess.com 30-minute or hour-long game. So I'm going to start a bot match, and it gives me a couple of options. So I'll play against Stockfish from 2 other options, and I'm going to put Stockfish at an ELO of 1500, and I'm going to give Stockfish 1 second to think on each move, and then I can choose if I want to be white or black or random, so I'll leave it at random, and I'll press start. And maybe you heard a beep that indicates that the game has started, and I am black. So as you can see, part of the board has just lit up, and maybe you can see that this e2 square and the e4 square are lit, and that is because I'm playing black against Stockfish, and Stockfish played pawn to e4. So it shows on the board what the opponent played, whether you're playing chess.com or you're playing against the bot, and that means that I can fully put this phone away, which is really nice. It allows you to just focus on the chess itself, and again, give you that real over-the-board experience. And so Stockfish has played this move, I can play it on the board, and then I can respond. So again, I'm black here, I'll play my c6, Caro-Kann, and we're getting into the d4 variations, of course, and here I'll play d5. Let's see what Stockfish is going to play. They're going to push the pawn forward. It's very clear what move your opponent is making, because they very simply, and I'll play, by the way, the c5 move here, the professional variation as it's known. It's very clear what your opponent plays, because 2 squares are lit up, 1 square has a piece, the other square doesn't, and you can simply move the piece to the open square, and that is the move. And against this one, I will go ahead and take the pawn in the center, and you can just play a really calm game of chess. So they're taking with the queen. Here, I can continue by just playing e6, for example. Let's see what Stockfish does. They play knight c3. I'll play knight c6, attacking the queen, and they're moving the queen to f4. This has become kind of topical, this idea of playing knight f3 and then maneuvering the queen to f4. It kind of harasses the king side a little bit. I'm going to try to develop my other pieces, so I'll put my knight to e7. Now, obviously, the point of this video is not the chess itself, so very shortly I'll stop, but it's a really cool experience, and it's very realistic. And again, I'm kind of playing backwards because I'm black here, but you really get to see how it feels to play an over-the-board game. There is a third feature that I do want to highlight, which is this analysis feature. So you can press a third button here, analysis, and now you can see the whole board just lit up, and that's because all of the pieces are in the wrong square. For analysis to work, you really need to bring all of the pieces back to their original square, especially if you want to be analyzing from the starting position. So let's quickly do that. And once all of the pieces come to their squares, you can see the red dots are beginning to dissipate. So all of the pieces are back in place, and now what you can do is you have this board here, and you have the engine evaluations of the positions, and so you could just start playing moves that happen. For example, if you just came back from an over-the-board game and you have the score sheet, you can begin playing. I played 4, let's say we got into the Roy Lopez, and you can just start playing these moves, and they immediately register on the phone board. So I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but the position is coming to the phone, and whatever is played, so for example, let's say this variation is played, you can see that that is registering with the phone, and you can see the evaluations. So for example, in this position, you can see that according to the engine, b5 is the best move, bishop b3, and then bishop c5. We cover this in the Roy Lopez Masterclass if you're interested, and now c3. And this is indeed what I recommend. You're going for this d4 break, whatever. This is a pretty cool feature. To be honest, I don't think this is mind-blowing. At the end of the day, you're replaying some moves, but you do have to have the phone near you to see the evaluation. And that is kind of the whole point of an electronic board. You can put your phone away and then just play against an opponent. So my final thoughts on this board are as follows. First of all, the board and pieces, as I've gotten a bit more experience with them, they really come together nicely. I'm really a fan of the sizes of the relative pieces to the boards. And I think you get the entire picture in one view. It's really nice to play with this board. It feels very good. In terms of the uses of this ChessNut Air Plus, I think it has a very specific use. Now, they do very publicly state that there's all of these apps and you can sort of engage in this board in a multi-dimensional way. You can analyze, you can play against online players. There's other apps to do other things with this board. But if I'm being really honest, in my opinion, the 99% of the time you're going to be using this board to just play chess, either against bots or against players in chess.com or Lichess. I feel like that's where this board really shines. And again, it comes down to the idea of putting the phone away and just engaging in chess in a completely different way for many people. So if that is something that is appealing, then I think ChessNut Air Plus does that really, really well. I think the fact that the lights, the LED lights, are very clear, but they're not overwhelming. There's only one dot on each square, as opposed to some of the other designs that have 4 dots on every corner of the square, and that sometimes just blinds you and distracts you. And if you're trying to get that over-the-board experience, obviously, in a real tournament game, there isn't lights that suddenly pop from the board. And so I think it's a very subtle way to clue you into what your opponent is playing. And so for the purposes of playing against online players, it's really easy. The other thing I'll say is the setup of the board is really clean to be able to engage with this board. And what I mean is that there's just one panel of buttons, and you come to the board, you put the pieces on the board, you press on, and then you press Bluetooth on your phone, you connect the boards, and you begin playing. There isn't a whole lot that goes into this. So it's a very clean setup. And again, for the very specific purposes that I outlined of playing against other players, I think it serves that purpose really well. If you have any questions about how this board works, then let me know down below. Again, link in the description, and I will see you guys next time. Subscribe if you're new around here, like the video if you learned something new from it. Peace out.